Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Supreme Fertility Live this evening. I'm joined once again by Tanya Alberts, a certified Supreme Fertility practitioner and one of the owners and founders of the Transform Your Health Network. Welcome, Tanya, and thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much, Debbie. It's lovely to be here.
We're going to be discussing a very interesting topic this evening, and that is weight loss. It's quite a touchy subject. It's difficult for people to lose weight, but it can affect fertility in many different ways. So before we carry on, and I just want to get right into it and ask you one or two questions. The first one, like off the bat, do all couples stand the same chance of falling pregnant, or are there various factors that can affect their chances and cause different changes in these different areas between different couples?
So, Debbie, for each couple who want to fall pregnant, the journey is actually very different and very unique, because some couples can just talk about pregnancy and all of a sudden they conceive, where other couples, they can take weeks, months, or even years to fall pregnant. And a study that was done in 2020 in South Africa actually indicated that 1 in 6 couples are diagnosed with infertility.
That's very common, and I think we don't always hear about it all the time because it's a sensitive topic, so people don't always talk about it. So it is a lot common than we are quite evident. So when we're talking about this issue, is there anything we can do about this?
So unfortunately, there are certain physical factors that have a significant effect on a couple's ability to fall pregnant. And in most cases, there isn't much that we can do about these contributing factors when it comes to infertility. But there is hope, because there are some changeable factors that play a role in becoming pregnant. And some of these uncontrolled factors can include things like genetic conditions that affect your reproductive system. And the changeable factors actually include things like body weight, which can be adjusted to improve fertility. However, it is important to note, and I want to tell our listeners, that being overweight or underweight is not a reliable form of contraception, and it's not guaranteed that you won't fall pregnant, but weight can have a huge impact on your abilities to become pregnant.
And when we're speaking about weight, can you be a little bit more specific how this affects fertility in women?
So, Debbie, as you know, male or female, we know that being overweight can increase our risk for disease, things like chronic disease, like hypertension, kidney disease, but it can also affect our abilities when it comes to fertility and reproductive health. And for women, this can be due to things like excessive, or it can cause basically hormonal imbalances or problems with ovulation and even menstrual disorders. And some of the studies have actually shown that females who are overweight or obese can have a higher risk of developing polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a disorder that causes fluid-filled cysts on the ovaries and obviously affects the reproduction or the reproductive dysfunction. That's what it basically creates. If females are overweight or obese, it can actually affect their estrogen levels. It can cause lower estrogen levels. And as you know, estrogen is one of the hormones that's responsible for triggering on ovulation. And if there's no ovulation, it can actually affect infertility. And there's also, if you are overweight, there's a risk of developing insulin resistance. And this also disrupts ovulation. And then also, if a female is overweight or obese, it can cause difficulties when there is basically assisted reproduction, meaning things like IVF. So the weight for females, it does play a role in your abilities to fall pregnant and to have that fertility advantage.
Now, absolutely, you mentioned estrogen, but what a lot of people don't know is that excess fat cells in the body work like little hormone factories, and these fat cells pump out excess hormones and things like that. So all these different causes that you mentioned in women, are men equally affected, and is their fertility also affected by increased weights?
So, Deborah, it does take two people to make a baby. And according to research that has been done, especially in men, obesity is associated with lower testosterone levels. There's also studies that show it impairs sperm quality. They have a higher rate of erectile dysfunction, and obesity can lead to other chronic diseases like hypertension and diabetes, as discussed before. And research indicated that if a male who is overweight loses weight, it significantly increases their total sperm count and also the quality of the sperm, that obviously increases their chances of conceiving.
Tanya, that's quite considerable, and there's so much. They say even a small weight loss can have this impact. So people don't have to go and lose hundreds of kilograms. That's these small little increments of weight loss that can bring about these changes. But I know we're going to have listeners out there that have managed to fall pregnant despite being overweight. And this is always, they might have been lucky in this case, but are there other health risks and stuff involved besides the infertility issues?
So having obesity during pregnancy for females especially increases the risk for various pregnancy complications. They can include things like miscarriages, they can include things like stillbirths, gestational diabetes. There can be problems during pregnancy like preeclampsia, which is a form of hypertension during pregnancy. There can be heart complications. There can be difficulty during delivery. There can be sleep apnea. And also if the female needs to go for a cesarean section, there can be complications with wound healing as well as complications during the operation. Therefore, it's to both partners, the couples, to their benefit if they start off with a healthy weight before they try and conceive.
Now, we did mention that these small changes in weight loss can have such a beneficial influence, but in your opinion, what would you recommend as being a healthy weight for women and a healthy weight for men, or how do they determine what this healthy weight is?
So, Deborah, everyone has a different healthy weight because it depends on the individual person. It's related to their age, their height, their gender, and if they have other chronic diseases or taking medications. But the basic measure that we normally classify our clients into is called a body mass index, or also known as your BMI. And it's a classification to tell if you are underweight, overweight, normal weight, or obese. And it basically is a measurement where you take your weight and you divide your height into it, and then it's plotted on a classification. Another measurement that we also use is your waist circumference, and this is a little bit more accurate because BMI doesn't always account for muscle mass and the type of sport you do and things like that, but it is a good indicator to start with. And if you also consider your waist circumference, because your waist circumference can't lie, that tells you how much fat is around your abdominal area. And for males, we try and achieve a waist circumference less than 102 centimeters. And ideally, it needs to be 94 centimeters to decrease your risk of heart disease and insulin resistance. And for adult females, it needs to be below 88 centimeters and ideally below 80 centimeters to also have a decrease in that risk for insulin resistance and heart disease.
And I know we've been talking a lot about overweight now, but what we didn't mention that I also want to touch on is underweight individuals also struggle with infertility. And there are various conditions, if you can maybe just touch on that, that can also cause these extreme low weights. And I know eating disorders is potentially one of those. And just offhand, anything else that you could just touch on for these underweight individuals as well, because that's also not always healthy.
So candidates who need to be aware of their weight, especially people who do a lot of sport, because obviously they have more muscle mass than fat mass in their bodies, and their lean body mass of that level, the fact that they don't have enough fat mass can affect infertility. as well as if they have eating disorders and if their BMI level is classified as being underweight. And also, which I wanted to get to a bit later, is if you go on a diet to actually lose weight and you eat next to nothing, because that's what most people believe they should be doing, they're actually not getting in the nutrients their bodies need. And you need vitamins and minerals and antioxidants for your body to function optimally, to actually conceive a baby. And if you're lacking in those nutrients from your diet, you're also going to have problems in conceiving.
And I know a lot of people will tend not to be concerned with this underweight, and overweight is always a problem. But it's very, very difficult to lose weight and to bring your weight down into this healthy range. And I know it's very challenging, and it's often the habits that people most enjoy doing and overindulge and like eating and drinking that causes the problems. And that's usually what they have to give up first. But I know dietetics and nutrition is your area of expertise. And what kind of tips and dietary and lifestyle factors can you share with our listeners out there to help make this a little bit easier?
No problem, Deborah. I hope they've got a pen and paper ready, because I'm going to give a few tips that you can follow.
Excellent.
Number one is basically setting goals. Goals are very important so that you know towards what you're working towards and you have a plan to work towards. And look at your current habits that you have and decide if they are healthy or unhealthy. And if they are unhealthy, start replacing those unhealthy habits with some healthy ones. You can't just take them away, because then there's going to be an empty space. You need to replace it with something else, and make sure that you replace them with easy habits. So set your goals into what will be the new habit you're taking on. For example, let's say you don't have breakfast. So make the goal that you're going to have breakfast every day. Or let's say you don't pack lunch. So make the goal that you're going to pack lunch every day instead of buying from the cafeteria, because the foods that you get from the cafeteria might not benefit your weight gain or weight loss efforts, because to gain weight is just as difficult as it is to lose weight when you have to aim for a certain goal. And you need to gain healthy weight or lose healthy weight to make sure that your body is optimal for fertility purposes.
And just a little bit more specific when it comes to weight loss, can you recommend foods that our listeners should concentrate it more of, foods that they should avoid, and a few other dietary or lifestyle tips particularly that can also aid in weight loss?
Sure. So you can look at cutting back on unhealthy processed foods, unhealthy, highly processed foods, and rather choose foods that are lightly processed or not processed. And what I mean by this is an unhealthy or highly processed food normally contains a lot of sugar, salt, and fats, and it's actually changed from its normal composition or shape. It doesn't look like what it looked when it started off with. They actually have to put a food label on so that you can recognize what's in the product. And if you have too much of the salt, the sugars, and the fats that they add into these foods, it actually can be detrimental to your weight loss efforts. Where if you choose lightly processed foods or foods that haven't had added salt, sugars, and fats to it, you actually get more of the good stuff, like your antioxidants, your fibers, your vitamins, and your minerals. And these are the nutrients your body needs for optimal functioning and protection, especially when you want to work on conceiving a baby. And an easy way to do it is to actually fill your plate, half your plate, with vegetables for 2 of your main meals, and if you can, 3 of your main meals. Because then you're going to ensure that you're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals, and the amount of fiber you're getting from half your plate filled with vegetables also helps to keep those cravings at bay. Then look at considering portioning your food correctly, and you can do this easily by using your hands. So if you take 2 hands, that's normally the size of what your vegetable portion should be. And if you can do that for each main meal, it will help you to get in the amount of vitamins and minerals your body needs, that it needs basically from vegetables. And if you take your meat portion, that's normally a palm size, and it's this thickness. And a lot of viewers might think, oh my goodness, that's such a small piece of meat, but that's all your body needs, because it only absorbs a certain amount of protein every 3 hours. And then your starches are your energy food. So you need about a fist size of your starches. And remember that your starchy veggies also go into that group. So that would be things like your potatoes, your sweet potatoes, your corn, your carrots, your beetroots. That'll also fit into the space. So 2 hands for your vegetables, like your salad vegetables, your broccolis, your tomatoes, your cucumbers and mushrooms. Then a palm size for your protein, which is your lean meats, your eggs, your dairies, your beans, your chicken, your fish, and then a fist size for your starches. That'll go on your plate, which is your whole grain rice, your pastas, and your breads, as well as your potatoes and your sweet potatoes, and then a thumb size for your fat, because fat we still need. It is an energy forming food, and it is important to get it because it's good for hair growth, cell growth, hormones. So don't leave out the fat, but choose your good fats, and you only need a little bit, because a little bit goes a long way. And then something that we always talk about is moving. So we need to keep our bodies moving. And a lot of people don't see that as an important tip or an important factor when it comes to maintaining weight or weight loss or a healthy lifestyle. But if you're sitting the whole day, it's actually not good for your hormones. It's not good for your body posture, your bone health, your muscle mass. So make sure that you're moving at least every hour for 5 to 10 minutes when you are at work, and try and get at least about 20 minutes of physical activity. Either park your car far away, maybe take the stairs, maybe take up hiking on the weekends, maybe go for a walk with a friend, but do something that you enjoy. And remember, trying to make a baby takes 2 people. It is team effort. And get your partner involved, get your support system involved, so that you can achieve one of these goals that you are setting for yourself. Then something that I really like to talk to my clients about is to be mindful of what you are eating and when you are eating and where you are when you are eating. Don't just eat because it's there. Ask yourself, are you having true physical hunger, or are you eating for another reason? Because if we continuously eat for other reasons than hunger, we actually develop unhealthy habits, unhealthy eating habits. And over time, we might not be eating for that other reason. We're just eating because it's an action that we've repeated for so many times that it's become habitual. And then be kind to yourself. If you decided, okay, today is the day and I'm going to have that biscuit, have it. But don't be annoyed with yourself for not achieving your goals, because we're all human and we need to be kind when we start to make these changes. And then the last one, as I mentioned earlier, is don't starve yourself. Your body needs to be in optimal shape to actually conceive a baby and to make your body more fertile friendly. You need to make sure that you're getting all the antioxidants, the micronutrients that your body needs. So, and if you go on a starvation diet where you're eating next to nothing, your body is going to go into stress mode, survival mode, and not into baby making mode.
Tanya, I love the analogy that you gave with your fist and hand sizes, because I think it's so easy for patients to implement. We don't have to weigh, measure, count calories or count GI. So I think it's a very easy way to implement a new lifestyle, because it's often people are very enthusiastic and inspired when they start out on a new diet or lifestyle, and that only lasts about a week or 2, and then they lose this motivation. So I think something that's easy to implement like this, and you can do it if you're in a restaurant, if you're visiting family or friends. So it's super, super easy to do. And I know something that you mentioned that I am personally guilty of is not moving. I know when we're sitting at our desks and we keep working all day long, 3 or 4 hours can pass and you haven't moved, and you wonder why you get these like hip aches and you pick up weight. And so I really think it's mindful, and something that might help for that is maybe to set an alarm, or even just, I know a lot of Apple watches and stuff can ping to remind people to move. So it's something that we often forget that I think is very, very beneficial. Just one thing that you didn't touch on that I quickly just want to pick your brain as well while we've got you online is beverages. The calories in a milkshake are between 600 and 700 calories. And looking at that, that's more calories than in an adequate meal size just in the milkshake. And people usually consume the milkshake as the beverage, and then they still have the hamburger and chips like on top of that. So I think a lot of these hidden calories can come through the beverages, and people can quite easily overconsume on drinks, and they're thinking that they're hardly eating anything, yet they're still picking up weight. So it's all these hidden calories. Can you quickly just touch on that for us? What are beverages that we need to be mindful of, avoid, and what types of drinks should we replace these with?
So, Deborah, it's very easy to drink your calories and to not feel full. If you take, for example, let's just look at fruit juice. And in a glass of fruit juice, there's about 5 to 8 pieces of fruit that have been blended into a juice. But you won't eat 5 to 8 pieces of fruit, but it would be very easy for you to drink that amount of fruit. And that volume of fructose coming into your body, it's too high volume for at one go. And it should rather be in the shape of a fruit that actually has fiber in it, that will control the release of sugar into your bloodstream, which also helps with your weight. And then other beverages that you should rather focus on is obviously water. I know a lot of people don't like water, but they can use like water infusers, adding berries, cucumber, or even things like mint and lemons or lemon juice to their water to just give it a different taste. And they can even use flavored teas and make their own homemade iced tea, because homemade iced tea, you can control how much sugar you're going to add to it. It's not that you're not going to add any sugar, you're just not going to add as much sugar as what you would get in a shop, the beverages that are sold in a shop. So be wary of the type of drinks that you do have. Milk is filled with calcium, and that's one of your healthy drinks that you should focus on because your body needs it. And also some of your milks are fortified with micronutrients that your body needs, like vitamin D, that you need, as well as some of your B vitamins, as well as there's vitamin B12 in it, which is also very important for fertility purposes. So focus on your natural drinks. So again, it goes back into your highly processed foods and your lightly processed foods, and focusing on foods that are not changed from its original state into something that needs a label to be recognized. That would be your safest way to go when it comes to drinks as well.
And men are always labeled as having beer bellies. Can you just touch a bit on alcohol for us? Are there better alcohol choices? I know when it comes to fertility, preferably we don't want any alcohol. And men get off the hook quite luckily, because when the women fall pregnant, they don't have to keep avoiding it. But it's also something that people need to be mindful of, because the toxins can affect hormone levels. They can affect thyroid functioning, toxicity, and besides that, they can also increase weight. What are your thoughts on alcohol, just briefly there?
So again, Deborah, that's quite a touchy subject. A lot of people don't want to let go of the alcohol because it's just something that they're so used to. It's a habit. But alcohol actually can steal some of your B vitamins in your body. So you need more B vitamins that you will need to get in from your diet or possibly from supplementation. It's the same with sugar. Sugar also affects the B vitamin absorption in your body. So again, if you are having sugary drinks or alcohol containing drinks, you need to make sure that you're getting in enough of those B vitamins to help your body to be in an optimal position for fertility and conceiving. The WHO recommends for males, adult males, to have 2 drinks or 2 standard size drinks as part of part of a healthy diet if they do drink. And also for females, it would be 1 standard drink. So it's like 125 ml of wine or 1 tot of whiskey or spirits that a person would have. But for fertility purposes, again, as you said, the toxins and the fact that it affects the vitamin absorptions, it's rather something that they should consider not having, because you don't know how their bodies are actually metabolizing the alcohol and if their livers are actually able to get the toxins out fast enough before it affects any of the other hormones. It can also affect things like your sleep if you have alcohol, and that again affects fertility, because you need to have optimal sleep. Your circadian rhythms need to be in sync. And so alcohol, I wouldn't recommend that if you are trying to conceive.
And one of the nice things I like about the DNA testing, it also gives us a little bit more insight and explanation into why people are affected so differently, because two people might both have the same amount of alcohol, yet one person might be affected a lot more in a negative way because of their genetic makeup, etc. So listening to you, Tanya, I think if I just wrap it up quickly, it sounds like if you eat your food in its whole state as possible, not juice it, not eat it out of a box, eat 2 fists of these fresh whole foods, it's going to be an easy way to lose weight, even though it's not a quick way. People also need to understand that you can't do it for 1 or 2 days and expect to become thin overnight. It's taken people sometimes 5 or 10 years to put on all this weight, and they want to lose it all in a week. So it's not possible. I think they've got to be patient. You've got to persist almost for as long as you didn't look after your body. You've now got to feed your body with all those right nutrients and stuff for the weight to come off naturally again. So Tanya, you've shared so much insight and wisdom with our listeners this evening, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to get hold of you and maybe book a consultation and just to share a little bit more of your knowledge and ask you to help them get this weight off, because it is a journey. People need encouragement and motivation along the way. As we mentioned, the inspiration's a bit like bathing. You've got to keep replenishing it every single day because it dries up, and we need somebody to help and guide us along the way to help make this journey a little bit easier. So please, can you just quickly share with our listeners, how can they reach you if they want to book an appointment with you to help get all this weight off?
Well, Debbie, we're based all over Gauteng, and we also service help a lot of our clients online. They can reach us by going to our website, which is www.tyhn.co.za. On there, they can book a free introduction session with one of our practitioners just to get to know them, and also ask them just so that we can find out, where you are, what you want to achieve, and then help you to develop a specific treatment plan, what will be the next step for you. So if they go to the website www.tyhn.co.za, they can go and book a free introduction session. It's not a consultation session, it's just to get to know your practitioner.
That's fantastic. Now, thank you so much for offering to do that, Tanya. I think it's really going to give people a lot more insight. Sometimes they like to just to meet the practitioner that they're going to be working with, because I think you've sort of got to get on and like the person and before you can listen to the advice that they're actually giving you. So thank you so much for taking your time and sharing all that wisdom with our listeners again. I know it's given so much people food for thought, and I know it will really benefit so many people if they just implement a few of these recommended changes and get a few kilograms off. It will help to make healthy babies in the long run. So thanks again for joining me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.